All right, good morning, guys.
Morning.
Great to have you all here.
Thanks.
Sorry for the delay. There was a gentleman who was going up and down Adelaide Terrace. We were trying to see if we could lasso him into today's workshop, but unfortunately he's not going to make it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to record so I can send him the video and the information. I won't really have anybody's faces in there, so there's not to worry about any side profiles or anything.
Are you going to send it to us as well?
Yes, yep, okay, for sure. Cool. I'll send it to you. And so before we get started, I'd love us just to do a bit of an exercise, just a bit of a switch on exercise. So can everyone just do, and I've closed the door so it's okay, can everyone just do a clap? All right, on three, we're just going to do a clap and a bit of a cheer. Okay, so ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, now usually what I do is I do that and then it's pretty flat to start, and then I get us to do a second one even more energetic, but that was pretty energetic, so it tells me that you guys are pretty keen, so that works out well. I won't do the second one. I won't bother the neighbours. So the base, so my name's Kyle Spirides, and I've been a photographer for 6 years. Had a professional business for 6 years, and I learnt like professionally. So I went to a diploma, went through the normal ways of learning photography. And I had an uncle who was shooting for the likes of Qantas Wallabies, Combank, NRMA. So I was able to get on major sets with him and really learn the ropes from him. So that was incredible opportunity. So I've been able to create that business. And basically around 2020, with the world going the way it was, a lot of my clients were saying, well, how do I take photographs of my products? How do I take photographs of this? How do I keep my content going? And there was a crux where, okay, they wanted to stay at home, or they just weren't able to go anywhere. But also at the same time, everyone was on devices. And so it was a perfect time for them to actually share their stuff. So whether it was personally, they wanted to get better personally, and but I do believe every person is a business in their own right. Whatever they're wanting to do in their life. And the way the digital space is, tap into that. So that's where I created a phone photography course. Jasmine's actually was looking at my face last night just to get warmed up. Yeah, like different ways I could, help people use their phone, because a lot of people, there's many reasons. Maybe they don't have the money for a professional photographer, or maybe they don't need a photographer week after week. So that consistency. The main thing I just wanted to share is that we'll start off with the workshop. So workshop, and then we will go into practical. So that's when we will all, we've got some products here already brought in, which is great. And then questions. So I really want to make this, an open forum where you can ask questions. So, one of the things that I sometimes get irritated from workshops is that I wasn't able to ask the question. If you've got any questions, write them down, or you can put your hand up and interrupt. There's I won't get upset about that. And then I brought some equipment here as well, just to kind of take you through some tools, some things that you can think about using to help your photography, clean your camera and things like that. So clean the lens and things like that. Things you can think about with macro lenses and wide lenses, so attachments that you can use. Ian, how are you going, mate?
Confused.
Confused. So glad you came, mate. So glad. Beautiful. All right, everyone's here. That makes me happy. Awesome. All right, so Ian knows me, so no need to do the introduction and everything. And and get into the presentation. And then, like I said, we'll do the presentation, then we'll get into the practical, and then any questions, open forum. If you do want to bring your phones up to me, we can do that. So, just to move on. All right, so when should you not use your phone camera, or when would it be more difficult? You're going to have more challenges, you're going to get frustrated. Usually it's if you're wanting to kind of do a zoom. So right now I've got that camera on and it's zoomed into my face, and it's going to pick up good quality and all that sort of stuff. And I can take a photo of someone on a sports field very easily with cameras. With phones, it's getting better. You've got the triple lens, you've got different things where it can zoom in with the latest phones. But generally what happens is as soon as you zoom, the resolution, the quality comes down quite a bit. And then also like motion, if you're wanting to take photographs of your kids running, things like that, a lot of people get frustrated because they go, oh, why is it blurry? Why? And a lot of those sorts of things. So they're things to think about when you're taking photographs. Another thing is low light. Generally camera phones, because the sensor's quite a bit smaller to an actual camera, Low light's not as great, so that's where you can maybe get into the manual settings. You can try and override the camera a little bit to get really good low light images. But those are the kind of things that you got to think about when you're wanting to use your phone, or when it would be a good idea for you to use your phone. I mean, there's just, why not? Why would you not use your phone as a camera? Why would you not, dive deep into the tools of your phone? Really, really important with keeping people updated, keeping that awareness, that front of mind, whether it's a business or you just want to connect with people. You can connect with so many different people online, and that's really the beauty of it. Yes, there's the online and the digital, that's not positive, but there's also that other side that's really, really, you're able to send photos and videos to family across the world. So why would you not use this device? So images move people. They really do move people. They move people to act, and that's really one of the things that I learned when I was doing my diploma, was a photograph of a Viet Cong. So the Viet Cong and the opposite, the two sides, and there was a general with a gun to one of the other people's head, and apparently that photograph in the newspapers sent back to the US was one of the big reasons why they pulled out of Vietnam, just because the general public were so fed up with that war and they pulled out. So, those sorts of things, that's the power that imagery can really have. You can have it in terms of political or revolutionary, or just grabbing someone's attention, with these two images, Alan, he is a chiropractor from East Perth, and I took a photograph of him way back in the day, and he says people still come to him to this day and say, the image on your business card, I trusted you, and that's why I came in. There was something about that image that just made me want to come in.
The man with the meatball is now.
No. No. Nice Easter egg. You spotted that Easter egg. That's good. Yeah. I mean, he's really selling the dumpling there, Good.
Anyway,
good.
sorry, going back to Al, sorry.
No, good spot. That's usually people don't get that one. An investment he made that actually got people into his store, got people ready to know him, that they already had that touch. A lot of times you go into maybe an office and you don't know who you're going to see, but you see a familiar face, and all of a sudden you actually got some connection there. You can build a relationship from that. And then Clivey, that's my grandfather, and he was in 2019, he was passing away, and he had a family were trying to get some photos of him for the funeral. And they all came up to me and said, where's that photo of Clivey? Where's the photo of Clivey? I said, what photo? That photo you took of him. And I said, well, it's on a hard drive back in WA. I can't get my hands on it. And they said, you have to find it. And I said, well, there's other photographs. Why is it this photograph? And they said, well, that's Clivey. That's him. That's his essence. That's who he is.
It is a beautiful shot.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Is that enhanced?
His eyes were
Yeah.
that blue.
No, they are blue, but it is enhanced. All the images are enhanced, and one of the reasons you will enhance images is because especially if you're doing shooting in RAW, right? So you can shoot in RAW on some manual iPhones and phones, Samsung especially, and RAW just basically takes away the color, the contrast, the sharp, all that sort of stuff. But when you're shooting RAW so that when you edit and you go through post-production, you have the biggest amount of, gamut to play with the colors, with everything. So that's why you're shooting RAW, but RAWs are very, very flat. So you're trying to bring back, with a great question, because with photography, you're trying to bring back what you saw. Because, you will never get it as perfect as you saw in that moment. You saw that beautiful smile, you saw that beautiful landscape, whatever it is, you saw that beautiful moment, and then you capture it, and instantly it's kind of gone down a peg. And then in post-production, that's where you want to bring it up. So we'll talk about Snapseed, which is a great application for your phone.
If you have a big memory, you probably would want to be careful about what you shot in your...
Yeah, you probably have to get like a 1 terabyte hard drive. I think they're $60 from, and I would suggest even with phone, like if you're taking phone, like those, they can be like 1-2 megabyte files. So if you're taking lots and lots and lots and they fill up and your phone breaks, adios. So backup is, it's pretty much, redundancy is God with your media. So definitely look into that. Yeah. So you edit and you try and bring that back up to how you saw the image. How you saw the puppets, how you saw the book, how you saw how the colors came to be. So you're trying to bring it back to that moment when you took the photograph. He does have really, really blue eyes. They said we need that photograph of him, and it was because they had that gravity to that image. And that was, I mean, that's the power of the image, is that they could feel like he's here. And that's what, that's what I want to get to, is that it's not, for me, it's more than just taking snaps. It's capturing the soul and the essence of the moment, or the person, or, the product, what does it do? How does it help people? So I suggest people to focus on that deeper element. Auditory, you listen to an audible book, something like that, you're going to remember 10%, of that 3 days later, where with images it's 65%. So that's where images really have a big part in my life in a lot of areas. So, if you're an interior designer, if, whatever you're doing, you're just having images relating to your thoughts or your mind or your ideas, it just helps bring everything together in a much stronger way. And the same number is 65% of the world's population are visual learners. I think everyone's probably visual learners to a certain extent. It's really important to get visual. And articles with relevant images get 94% more views on average compared to articles without. So if you're blogging, doing a post, trying to get some likes, make sure you got those images popping through. So how do we create quality imagery? We learn the principles, and we practice and we implement, which is much like anything. It's probably one of the more things where you have to, I'm not teaching you how to be a surgeon or things like that, where you have to do such a gamut of learning. Obviously, the more you learn would be great, but you don't want to get stuck in that learning or perfection. You want to actually start applying, practicing, getting out in the field, because that's going to give you so much more than if you don't. You can get all the tips, all the maestros, all the information, but if you don't go and practice it and see what's true to you, what works for you, then you won't actually get much better. Yeah, so we're going to take you through 3 elements of how to take a great photograph. So the first is how to hold it. It's really for that stability, because you might take a photograph of something and go, oh, that's perfect, high resolution, screen, great, it looks great. You look a bit later and it was blurry, and if you want to go and eventually, because you can now print photographs off. Yes?
Do you need high res on your phone though? If your content's going on the web?
No, so it's 72 pixels per inch on like web, but if you wanted to print, it's 300 DPI. So you don't need it. You just need the spread. So if you're gonna see it on an iMac, things like that. But anything from the iPhone 6 beyond takes incredible photographs, and that's really where it is the person holding it. So don't worry about. Yeah, probably should have prefaced that. Don't worry about getting the latest.
Without setting anything on your phone, like what kind of resolution would be? I think like with some of my photos, they're obviously like really big, high resolution. Because when I went to email them, there was like problems.
Wow.
Like that. So I don't know because I never set it. So
how many were you emailing at a time? 8. Okay. So that might have been the reason. So generally, the file size could be 2 megabytes, can be 1.5 megabytes. You just put it through there and you compress it. It doesn't take a whole lot of quality away from the image. tinypng.com. I'll send through the links as well in the email. I think straight out of the setting, the box, it will be high res, but we can look at your specific phone to see if you can shoot at a smaller resolution. Because if that's your workload and you're not wanting to shoot at high res, you want to shoot photos and send it through, you can always crop, because crop will just generally take away a lot of the resolution, but it'll take the size of the file will really come down if you crop the image. But we'll have a look at like the settings of what it's been taken in. Let's work out how to hold it like a pro so that you can drop it like it's hot. That's going to be the first thing. So how to hold your camera is really important. And then the principles of what creates a great photograph. This is probably the most important thing, because whatever tool it is, it's still the person taking the photograph, seeing the moment, and moving to meet that moment. And that's really, really important. Take us through this, and we can grab our phones out if we want now, because we're going to do a little bit of learning. So you can kind of take a look at the images on here in terms of how to hold it. This is really to avoid blurry images, poorly framed images. I mean, if you're out and you're trying to take photographs with your friends, and you're a teenager, probably wouldn't make you look very cool, wouldn't be very funky. The principles of how you can take a photograph that's steady, the most amount steady. And like I said, you can see, I don't know if you can see, but down the bottom, this image is blurry, and then this image is sharp. And like I said, the camera generally struggles, and this was shot in manual on the Samsung. And in this course, I went through Samsung, Google Pixel, iPhone, so I went through the range. At low light means your shutter speed's coming down. So what happens is when you shoot at low light, the camera will auto take over and want to bring your shutter speed down. And your shutter speed is how fast it takes the image. So 1/125th of a second is the general rule of thumb for taking photographs. If you're taking photographs for sport, it's 1/250th of a second because there's lots of movement. A plane, it's 1/4000th of a second. But they're really the mechanical settings. At night, the camera will auto go down to 1/60th of a second, 1/30th of a second. And so as soon as you go down below 1/125th, your hand holding has to be really spot on. So bring your elbows into your body. You can have a supported frame. So if you're taking photographs and you're going out here, you're going like that, and you're leaning over, you just think your heart's pumping the whole time, so your arm's going to shake regardless. And then you've got the weight of the phone, which they are quite weighty right now, and it's going to shake. So what you want to do is bring your elbow into your hip, okay? And then you can put your fingers like that, 3 fingers. The pinky goes underneath, okay? And then the thumb is intended to take the photo. So I'll bring the camera up here. So let's get the camera. So the thumb takes the photo, okay? So this is for horizontal. So elbows in, phone like that, 3 fingers, and then pinky down below, okay? And then you can bring your other hand like that. So the thumb's on the other side. So you're really hugging the camera.
It does make it difficult when you've got one of these though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can turn it upside down.
Yeah, if you can turn it upside down. And the basic thing, you just want to support the phone. So you're going one right hand supporting it, this is supporting it. You got another contact point of supporting it. Your elbow is touching your hip, your other elbow is touching your other hip, okay? Yeah. And then your thumb is the only thing that's going to really make the phone shake, okay? Your thumb, when you press the shot, it's going to make it shake a little bit, but this is how you get the most steady shot. If it's nice and sunny, if it's outdoors, those sorts of things, it's going to be fine. But if you're at low light and you want to get a stunning sunset, if you're inside and it's not very good lighting and you're going, why am I getting blurry? Come back to these steps, okay? So I wouldn't, if there's a beautiful shot in the street, I wouldn't say lock in and load, it's not going to be as fun for you. At that point, try and take the photo, but you can always just use the other hand to support it if you're out and about, and if you're trying to take photographs and you're leaning out, always try and use the other hand to support it at the bare minimum, rather than just one hand like this.
Your photos for social media? Because I don't think they fit on Facebook and Instagram and all that.
You mean horizontal?
Yeah, like that.
So,
think you should be doing that.
yeah. So the ratio is 5:4. So it does. So if you're on Instagram, it's 5:4, which means it's a little bit chopped. So vertical is 6:4. That's how the image will be taken, 6:4, which is this, okay?
Yeah.
And then 5:4 is this, okay? So it's not quite square, but it's just chopped a little bit more. So if you're thinking vertical, yeah, on Instagram it's going to give you 5:4 like
So
that,
you have your phone horizontal.
or like that, yeah. So you can shoot horizontal. It just means you're going to crop in the edges a bit more. So yes, vertical. I mean, that's what the phone's intended for. When you're doing videos, all that sort of stuff, the algorithms will support vertical images, vertical video as well. So that's a good point.
What are all the different proportions? Because I know, like if you do something on Google Business, it was one proportion, and then if you do something on Facebook, it's another proportion, isn't that right? And then Instagram's another one.
So Instagram's the one that really locks you in. Facebook, you're able to post like different ones. LinkedIn, you're able to post different ones. But Instagram's the one that really, because they are image heavy focused in terms of social media. Yeah, and it's 5:4. So and they really do want you to kind of post square images because it makes the layout look nice. And then obviously if you want that cover photo on your LinkedIn profile, that's like a 27:11 or something. 16:9 is the YouTube. 16:9 is like that. LinkedIn's kind of like chopped again because it's such a cover, and then your Facebook as well. So send me an email if you've got any questions about like ratios and stuff like that. If you're having trouble putting things up on LinkedIn or Facebook for you, because with LinkedIn it's really a big, powerful tool now, like that cover photo for people if they want to put their name and number and things like that. So with holding it vertically, you kind of have your pinky at the bottom again, and then the 3 fingers. Okay, so the pinky's holding it. You got the 3 fingers. You bring that hand underneath, and then you're using your thumb again to take the photograph. So you're really just, and then obviously the elbows are in like that for the most amount of support. Okay, and then it will still shake, but that's giving you the steadiest. Yeah.
Automatically, like, do
Yeah,
that,
just
don't you, though? It's almost
yeah.
like a habit that
Yeah.
you do that.
Yes.
But,
Yeah.
it's sort of real, you have to think about
Yeah, you have to think about, and
keeping yourself tight. And,
yeah.
yeah.
And the thing is, you'll go away and you'll like kind of forget about that. But the next time you shoot at night and it's blurry, you might remember, oh, this is what he said to make it sharp. Just lock and load, lock and comfort. That's really the main thing.
Options.
Yeah.
Saves you buying another thing.
Yeah, a wireless, like being able to wirelessly take a photo really helps, especially if you've got something on a tripod. I mean, that's going to be the most steady. You've got the phone on the tripod. That's the principles of holding it. And then photography principles. This is probably the most important thing, is photography principles of what makes a great image. And you'll see a little bit later on, we've got lighting, subject, and composition. And that's the trio that we're aiming for. That's the focus. First photography principle is composition, to get your composition right. And that's really what you're seeing in the frame. You know, so if you're taking photographs of something like a lens, you know, or a book, how are you going to make it look interesting? Yeah. How do you make this interesting? You know, a watch as well. How do you make it interesting? How do you make that look interesting in the shot? So the rule of thirds, instead of just putting things, and a lot of people will do this, especially when you've got Instagram kind of constraining your thing, you'll put it dead center. And dead center, you know, it's kind of what we're used to seeing. It gets a bit boring. But you'll notice even in video, when people are kind of slightly off center and there's a bit of the background, doesn't matter what it is, but there's a bit of a background, it just creates a bit more of an environmental portrait, environmental video, you know, and it adds that interest. So the rule of third, you can pick up the grids on your phone, and if you want to bring it to me towards the end, we can look at how we can help you with that. But picking up the grids, and this is the 9 grid option, which is 9 boxes, and you're trying to put the point of focus, so where you want the viewer's attention to go. So if it's the watch, you put it on one of these points, one of these in the center, one of these points on the end. So you're going either down that way, or that way, and that way. So you can see his eye chops on that line. So it's a little bit more interesting going into there. You know, her hand touching is right where that point is. So we're kind of focusing on that hand, you know, what is she doing, what is she touching, those sorts of things. And then that's where, you know, you can turn your grid lines on. It might say grid lines or 9 grid options, something like that in the phone, but that's where you can turn your grid lines on. And then the other one is to make sure when you're taking photographs of landscapes and say people, you want to make sure you don't chop the head. So you can see there's Perth City and there's a bit of distance from where the head is. It just really is an eyesore to see trees come out or people's heads chopped off. If you've got a product, same thing. If you've got something chopping it in the background, that's how our eye is going to see it. If you've got things coming out of the background. So really trying to think about your composition. Where does the thing that you want to photograph, where does the puppet sit in the image? Where does the product sit in the image? And you position it. So your point of interest. What do you want your point of interest to be? And there's a difference between looking or seeing. There's a difference between seeing and looking. Seeing is where you have your attention and your awareness up and you're seeing the environment. And then looking is very much focused on that one thing. So you want to have your point of interest, see it, but not look and only focus on that thing, because then you'll miss the landscape or the birds or the trees or everything else. So just be aware of what your point of interest is. I will show you and take you through Snapseed as an app, because that's a really powerful phone app where you can make your images look a little bit better. In your phone, if you do, it depends on the phone, but you can actually override it, and what you're trying to bring is your aperture down. So your aperture down to 1.4, 2.8, that's where you get blur in the background. Yeah. Most phones are just at f16, Sony 16 outside, and everything's in focus everywhere, and then that's where the images look very flat. Yeah, so this is another way of getting your point of interest into focus, is using leading lines. So pretty self-explanatory, but you can see something like this. That's where the frame cuts off, so that's where our eye enters the frame, and we follow the flags up to that metal object there, okay? So that's where, okay, great, metal object, okay, this is like some sort of fair medieval thing, so you get the whole vibe, you get the whole interest, because you're focusing on that thing that kind of advertises it the most.
me back to those good